Nicole Majik, thank you so much for joining me. It is lovely to have you. You are the empowerment alchemist, and we have just almost lost you. There you go. You're back. Thank you so much for joining me. You are the creator and founder of Magic LLC, a very magical name, which is very closely connected to you.
Yes.
So tell me a little bit about who is Nicole Magic and where, yeah, who are you?
Well, thank you for having me, Michelle. I really appreciate this. I'm excited to be here and to help the listeners today tap into a deeper level of themselves. I used to be a chemist for over 16 years, so I've got that background biology, chemistry, and I have a master's in metaphysics. I've seen auras all my life, energy, and the spirit realm. So I kind of combined the science and the spiritual and enter into that quantum physics area and with what I do. So it's always about empowering others to elevate each other and tap into their true passion, purpose, and truth. Um, yeah. What
Yeah.
up?
And that's really, I mean, the word alchemy is used quite a lot these days, very much around transformation and kind of the spiritual path, I suppose, and um, changing things. You have a program called Alchemy Transformation as well. Am I right?
Yes, I
Something like
do.
that.
Yep, the
Yeah.
alchemy of transformation, and really with that, there's there's so much that happens on the inside of us in order to transform our lives externally. That's really what it comes down to, is really understanding who you are at a very deep level. And when you reach these certain points, I like to call them diving boards, because when you go off the diving board and dive into the water, you always dive deeper. The higher you go, the deeper the dive.
Yeah.
So when you reach these different areas in your life and the milestones of knowing yourself at a deeper level, you start to understand everybody around you without the judgments, without the fears, and it just sloughs all that stuff away. And I really feel like that's the stuff that we really need in the world, is being able to tap into those levels of understanding of our own selves, because it just propagates into understanding others. So then we don't have all this negativity when you
Mm.
enter into that space.
But that's not so easy. I mean, it sounds really nice and fluffy, and let's just understand ourselves. But it's quite a path. We kind of basically just touched on it as we were chatting before, on where does it all start? Is there really a starting place, or is it all part of our journey of getting to a place of what do we actually want? And that's what you're going to come and share with us a little bit on the Wisdom Seekers. um, Wisdom Whispers is what we've been calling it now. It, around how do we kind of define our desires, because that's where we get to have that starting point as to we want all this stuff, but what is it? How do we do that?
Yeah, this is it. You're absolutely right. I'm going to back up to what you said, that it's not so easy, and it gets easier. I will say that.
Mm,
So as you do the work, it gets super easy.
mm,
But starting off, it doesn't feel easy, and it's kind of not, because if you're operating from limiting beliefs, if you're operating from a lot of subconscious behaviors, which most people are, what happens is you don't even know what you're doing.
mm,
So, if you don't have the awareness of what's truly happening and why it's happening, then you don't know how to resolve it. Which is why some people feel like they are constantly hitting their head against the wall, or, the constant loop and the patterns happen over and over and over again. Or you get to that point where you're saying, I thought I already dealt with this. So, when
yeah.
it comes to defining your desire, it's, you got to take a look at a few different things. Most people think about, well, I want, so when people come to me, I'm going to say some of the things that I see all the time, and it's all this initial stuff until we peel back a few of the layers, and then we see something very different. And that it usually looks something like this. I want to make a certain amount of money. I want a new house. I want a new car. I want the things. I want to be able to go on vacation with my family. I want to lose weight. I want to feel good in my clothes. So that's a little bit like transitioning into, something different when we peel back a layer. So there's a difference between I want to lose weight and I want to feel good in my clothes. Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
There's a big difference between I want to make more money, or I want a house, and I want to feel safe and secure and free and liberated. So most times when we strip all the things away, you can start there. And why do you want those things? So I ask people, okay, well, why do you want that? What does that give you? And then we end up coming down to the thing that people want the most is they want to feel at peace, and they want to be like, have freedom.
Yeah. Yeah. That's it.
That's it.
Yeah.
They want a peaceful, happy life. And whatever that means. And really that comes from inside here.
Yeah.
Right? So what's inhibiting them? Because there's 4 questions that I ask when we're defining your desire. The first is, what is it that you want? What do you truly want? And my clients kind of laugh when I say this, because it's something that I'll ask them over and over again. Can you get more specific? So if you can write that down, write what you want down, and then ask yourself, can I get more specific? And then ask again, and then go back to it again and ask again, and just keep doing that until it's like a sickening amount of times you do it.
Yeah.
You'll actually go, oh my God, thank you, Nicole.
Eventually.
You might have a stop somewhere along the way that says, F you, Nicole. Or, oh, come on, Nicole, what the heck? And then I'll just go, but can you just? and then all of a sudden it clicks. And once it clicks, because if it hasn't clicked yet, you haven't done it enough times. So that's the first question, is what is it that you actually want? The second question is, why do you want it? And this is a really important question, because the why will define what's behind it, the beliefs behind it. And I'm always looking at the beliefs, because you've got things that you want, and then you have beliefs that get in the way saying why you can't have it. So if you're looking at why you want it, you want to get real and raw with yourself about it, because that why, it might look something like this, which I'm going to use a very toxic version of why somebody wants something. So let's say somebody goes through a bad breakup, and, maybe they put on some pounds during a relationship that was maybe toxic. And then they go through this bad breakup, and they decide they want that revenge body, right? Yeah. So they want to lose weight. They want to get toned up. They want to look real good. And it's for the wrong reason. It's to get that revenge. I want that person to want me back so I can say, see you later, right? And what does that actually do for you? It's not elevating you. It's a toxic version of yourself that wants to come out because you're feeling a certain way. You're feeling undesirable, right? Or abandoned. And that's propagating out in this behavior that says, well, now I want the attention so I can stomp on you.
Yeah.
Right? So if that's the case, there's going to be a lot of blocks to getting to that place, because it's coming from toxic and not alignment. So what I'm looking for is, how do we get you in alignment so that you can have everything that you want and love your life?
Yeah. Yeah. Which is a higher frequency, isn't it? It's not down there. It's not, I'm going to get you back, or it's not that negative kind of loop. It's much more.
Right. So if we take that same scenario, toxic relationship, it ends, and maybe it was very painful and, horrible ending or whatever the case, very painful. And maybe you are sitting there saying, I feel abandoned and undesirable, and I don't like how I look. Right. I'm not happy with the way that I look, and I want to look different. Then my question would be, how do you want to show up? What is it that you want to look like? What and is it for yourself, or is it for somebody else? So if we kind of get outside of the judgment zone and the creating a space of judgment in your life, it looks more like, I'm the type of person who, and finish the sentence. So I'm the type of person who eats to nourish my body and takes care of, lots of self-care, lots of awareness around what I'm eating and how I feel when I eat it. That kind of stuff. I'm the type of person who likes to go for long walks and exercise and take care of myself. And you're shifting the mindset to get into this space where you're taking care of yourself and you're nourishing yourself. Not saying, I want to lose 30 pounds because I want to look good in my jeans.
Yeah, because that's external, isn't it? That's coming from someone else's perspective instead of mine. So how do I feel in my jeans is more important than what it looks like to others.
Absolutely.
Which is a big shift. I mean, that's huge.
It's a huge shift, because you want to make sure that what you're doing is in alignment. And when it's in alignment, it's not coming from a place of performance or judgment perspective, how other people perceive you. Okay. It's coming from a place of identity. When you identify with something, it's, who do you show up as? It's not what you look like, because you could lose 30 pounds. Sure. But, if you lost 28, you're not failing. If you lost 32, you're not failing. It's, you're when you set something as a performance, it becomes work. Leave the performance stuff for work, because work has to set goals so that you can be on a scale according to everybody else. So why would you want to live your life like that when you can live it however you want?
Yeah.
So that's the second question, was, why do you want it? And the third question is, what will you do when you have it? Because here's where we're looking at, when you get there, are you just going to drop it and say, okay, next? Because this is what people do, and there's a reason why they do this, because it's never good enough. So if you're in a place of alignment and presence, you are going to appreciate when you get there, and then what it looks like as far as what comes next, without being, okay, made it, done, let me focus on the next goal, and not living in the present.
Yeah.
So that's a very specific thing too. And then the last question is, what sacrifice will you make to get it? And this is a very important question, and a very specific reason why I use the word sacrifice, because sacrifice means something very different to most people than what it truly means. A lot of people associate sacrifice with pain and suffering. And I have to give up this, and it's painful, and I don't want to. And that is not a true sacrifice. So when we're looking at it that way, if you go, oh, I have to give this up to get something greater, a sacrifice is a sacred offering in order to achieve or gain something greater. So yes, it can be something that is near and dear to you and might feel a certain way to the ego with giving it up. So if you're used to binge watching 4 hours of Netflix every night, and you're trying to start your business and you've got to do a few things that are going to give you that momentum, well, maybe you watch 1 hour of Netflix and use 3 hours towards your sacrifice, your sacred sacrifice for something greater. It doesn't mean I have to give up all of Netflix. It means decide what is appropriate, because that sacrifice, that sacred offering, needs to be of a certain level of input to get what level of output you're expecting. You don't take 15 minutes out of your Netflix time and then expect that you're going to make $1 million in that first year of business. It doesn't make sense. Equal energy exchange.
Yeah, that's just what I wanted to say. It's an energy exchange. And that's what you implying. It's not, well, I have to now lay down my cross and suffer through this horrible thing. It's more of a balanced outlook, which
Yes.
is,
you're harmonizing your life. And that whole adage about you can't get somewhere doing the same thing, right? You can't get change doing the same thing. So you've got to change something. So, and in order to change something, you have to take action. And taking action means shifting what you've been doing and what you are doing so that you can get what you want. And it doesn't have to be painful. It actually can be quite exhilarating and fun. And should be, in my personal opinion.
Well, that sounds much better than suffering through it, because that's that seems to be a general message. And it's also, I mean, you were talking now about losing weight, or you know, when you get to 28 you didn't lose, but I mean, even if you get to 40, that might not make you happy either. You know, if you lose 40, Jim Carrey has a very famous saying that you know, he wishes everybody could become rich and famous so that they know that that's not what they really want, or that's not what is going to change things for them. So
Exactly. And that's it. Like, why do you want it? So sometimes let's kind of take that little piece that you just said right there, because sometimes people say, oh yeah, I want to be rich and famous. Why do you want that? Is it because you're looking for that attention, because you feel like you're not getting that attention? Because guess what's going to happen as soon as you have a ton of attention on you and everybody wants your time and energy and you to be, your face to be all over the place, and you just want to shrink into a hermit hole?
Yeah, it's not going to make you happy.
It's not going to make you happy, right? So there's balance, and sometimes it happens really fast. And I've been in those places where all of a sudden something blows up, and then everybody's like, Nicole, 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 and it's like, oh my God, help! I just want a hermit. Like, I don't want people today. You know? Guys, it happens to me too, and sometimes it's just certain people need you, and you want to be there for certain people, and there's a shift that has to happen between who needs you right here, right now, what is important, and we say be authentic, be you, and do what you want to do. If you ever feel obligated, just say no.
Yeah. That's true, isn't it? If you have to think about it too much, then it's probably a no.
Yeah, because obligation is a fear-based thing, where you're fearing different things. You feel like you have to do something for some reason, and that means, like, if I don't do it, I'm going to let somebody down. So that's fear of judgment. If I don't do it, then they're going to come back at me and basically retaliate or hold it against me. And again, you know, fear. It's all fear of something, that somebody's going to do something to you or be a certain way or think something of you in a negative way. And who cares is what I say. Like, who cares? So, because if you're going to do something just because of that, then it's not a real relationship. So let it fall away. Who cares?
Yeah.
It's not aligned. It's not supporting you.
No. And the world seems to be based on fear. that's how a lot of things seem to happen. We do things fear-based and it gets too much. So it's important to kind of turn inward and say, hang on a minute, what is driving me through it, instead of, we have the why that becomes also a judgment. Why are you doing? Oh, I'm doing it for someone else, which then is like, well, maybe we should look at that as well.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yep.
Yeah. But now, if we go back a little bit, you've had quite an interesting kind of path getting here. You've gone through working in labs, and you have a master's degree in metaphysics, which sounds amazing. You were involved in financial planning, of all things, which is quite interesting as well. And you've kind of brought them all together on I would dare to say spiritual level almost. How did that journey kind of look like? How did that happen?
Oof. A lot of things happened during
Yeah.
the journey, and there were different phases of foundation crumbling, right? And so I definitely, I'll see how many pieces I can touch on, but I definitely want the listeners out there to understand that sometimes it seems like your life is just, I'm going to say it just like this, your life is going to shit.
Yeah.
And it's really not. I like to say seemingly negative, like things
Yeah.
that are seemingly negative are happening. And usually everything is happening for your benefit, because if you can look at it that way, of how is this happening for my benefit? It's going to be easier for you to get through some things, even when it seems like everything is happening completely against you or falling apart. It's because so many things are not aligned. And in my life, I was a chemist for over 16 years. I definitely had some postpartum depression after one of my kids, went spiraling into depression, didn't even realize it, had this obsession with death and like fantasizing about how I could die almost every moment of every single day, yet still had this mantra of, I have these little kids at home, so just hold on a little longer, just a little longer, just a little longer. And that was my mantra that got me through the day. And I swear I probably just said it on autopilot every time. So I'd fantasize about the death. I'd say my little mantra. I'd come back to like whatever reality I was in. And then I had a near-death experience, changed everything.
Yeah.
Changed the way that I looked at life, love life from that point forward. Knew like I don't want to die. Quantum jumped into some other freaking reality that I was like, okay, we're doing this now. And everything changed. And then I got mercury poisoning. So all kinds of great things are happening. Then all of a sudden I get mercury poisoning and I'm fighting for my life.
Sure. Yeah.
Right. So had I gotten mercury poisoning when I was depressed, I probably would have allowed myself to die, is what I think. Yet in loving life and understanding and I know how to love life, then almost dying, I was able to fight for my life, for me and my family. And then looking at that, like after fighting for my life, then realizing I don't really want to work in chemistry anymore. Something changed inside. And then I ended up becoming a financial advisor and working with people and their money. I still had my own business. So I've had my business since 2008. And working with people and their money, I really got to use my skills in empowerment to help people understand why they felt certain ways around money. Yeah. And I had people leaving my office saying, thank you so much. I feel like I'm walking out of a therapy session. I really feel supported. I feel like I have an understanding of what I really should be doing with my money. And it makes sense to me now. right? Before it was a big fear-based thing. And when you strip away the fears and you answer all the questions, that's really it. That's all people need. And when they understand something about themselves, they can make the decisions that are aligned for them. And that's what I was there to do in that period of time that I was an advisor. And then I realized, I really need to be stepping into my business. So I had an exit strategy out of that. And I still help people with money in a very different way. So I don't advise on any investments and all that stuff. I have knowledge about it, but I don't do that. I help you understand it through the root causes and beliefs of why you think the way you think.
And specifically on limiting beliefs, because we seem to, most of us have a lot of those hanging around, wherever they come from.
Crazy beliefs. Some of the beliefs that people have and are just, and trust me, I unveiled some of my own that I sit there and I'm like, what is that? Where did you come from? And a lot of times it's like this conglomeration of beliefs from ancestors, and it's all grouped into this one thing, and it's just like bam. Face.
Exactly. Yeah, it's not necessarily even yours. It's like all the way back.
Oh yeah. And the thing is that the weirdest things come out in just the conversations that I have with people, because I ask questions that bring out the subconscious to speak, right? And I do it to myself. I'll walk around my house if I'm processing through stuff. I'm asking myself the questions. I take you through things that I do for myself, and it's the funniest thing, because sometimes I'll be like, or I'll have a conversation with a friend, because there are certain people that I'll call up and say, okay, I've got to process through something. We all need somebody else to bring out the subconscious. So it's really important that if you're not working on a conscious level and you're dealing with something subconscious, you've got to have someone else to guide you through that. So I'll call somebody up and say, hey, this is what I'm working through. So we're having a conversation and like, ask me questions. And we go through it. And I've said things out loud, like, and uncovered weird beliefs that aren't mine. Like something came out earlier this year, and I said, I make the worst decisions. And I was like, what? Wait a minute. No, I don't. And I'm like, where did that come from? And when I peeled back these layers, it was very specific about certain types of decisions. And I'm like, that isn't even mine. And when I peeled back a little bit more, I realized, this comes from my father's side. And then I had an understanding of it, and I was able to pinpoint like kind of where it came from, like who in my lineage it came from, and then take it away. But it's very specific. It's a very specific vibration for you. And that's what I work on with people, is getting down to that vibrational essence of what it is that's really rocking the boat. Because a standard limiting belief, it's not going to work for you and me and that guy and that girl. It's not the same. It has a very specific, I like to say, like ice cream flavor, has a specific flavor. Yours might be mint chocolate chip with Rocky Road and strawberry, and somebody else's might be pistachio, black raspberry, and vanilla. Like these combinations that are just, why would you even eat that?
But it's yours.
And somebody else's might be that Neapolitan, the classic chocolate, strawberry, and vanilla. So really, it's really a process of understanding and release, and then reframing and re-implementing in your life.
And that's, for me, that's alchemy. That's bringing that subconscious, making it conscious, and and then dealing with it. And yeah, you can't deal with it once while it's still in that dark space. You have to
Yeah,
kind of show it the light and see what it does, because yeah, that shadow is sometimes a big part of who we are, and it just wants to come out and play. And it has
absolutely.
to.
And it's really important that people understand why they feel certain resistances is the mind goes first. When you make a conscious decision, the mind starts it off and it goes in a direction. The body has muscle memory. So the body is programmed according to that old programming. It has to be rewired.
Yeah.
So there's a resistance that happens naturally, even though you're super excited. It's kind of like when you, and I think this is an example that everybody has been at some point. When you determine that you're going to go to the gym, and then you wake up and the body goes, yeah, but I don't want to. We don't do this thing. And
Yeah.
it's cold. I don't want to get up. I'm really tired. It's too late. Or whatever.
Yeah.
And it's saying, oh, I'm sore. I'm hurting. Wah, big crying. And then you either get up and move or you give in.
Yeah.
So it's a matter of really understanding what your body is doing, knowing that it's trying to dupe you, and then taking an action to move through it. Or sometimes it is giving yourself the grace to process and slow down, because it's not about pushing through all the time either. So it's
Yeah.
knowing when to give in and knowing when to make yourself move.
Mm.
It's very different.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be uncomfortable, and that's kind of almost coming back to that sacrifice. It's not about sacrificing you, or that connection that you have with your body. It's about connecting. um
Yes, it's
yeah.
about really connecting and really listening and doing what is going to be aligned
Yeah.
for you, right?
Yeah.
And when you do that, it becomes so good.
Yeah. Yeah, no, exactly. But it's difficult because we live in a world where there is people that tell you to do things a certain way, and as you say, we all have different ice cream flavors that make us who we are. So it's important to also know that you don't have to fit into anyone's box. It's about really finding your space to move in. But we I have this theory that we all have all the wisdom and all the things we need within, but we do need people along the way to kind of remind us, because we forget, because we get hung up on the world and the fear and the things that we bombarded with every day.
Yep.
Yeah. And I'm just going to go back one more time a little bit to when you were a child already. This all kind of started coming out with you were able to see auras and things like that, which must have been quite strange in those days. So when we were growing up, that these things were very not understood necessarily. How did that come about, and kind of how did you make peace with it, I suppose, and how did you embrace that?
Yeah, that whole thing was really interesting growing up, because I did grow up in a very Christian household. Sometimes it felt very like radical, um, radical to me anyway.
Yeah.
I've saw I've seen auras all my life, and it was probably around when I was about 7 years old. Uh, it was when I realized that other people don't see what I see, and I was in church, and it just so happens that the only person that their aura I found rarely changed at all, if ever, was the priest. So his aura was always purple.
Oh
And
wow.
it was like kind of cool to see like this person who it was all the time the same way. And then one day I'm sitting in church saying, why is his aura all green all of a sudden? And I had asked my mom, how come Father so and so is all green today and he's always purple? Because it was like, this is interesting. Like, why? And she looked at me and she's like, you see color around people? And I'm like, yeah, don't you? And she's like, no. She said, well, sometimes I see like a little white light around people, but that's about it. And I'm like, oh, Mom, but there's so much more than that. That's just the little thing, and then it was kind of like, oh, well, what do you see around this person, what do you see around this person? Because there's definitely a genuine curiosity that comes up, but then there's also this genuine curiosity that comes up that gets attached to the ego because you see things. So I kind of retreated because I understood that people would ask even people that I was close to would ask me when they know that I can read auras and see auras. I've had people come to me and say, oh, can you read my boyfriend's aura and tell me what's going on? And I'm like, I could. Would you like me to do the same about you to him?
Yeah.
I'm like, that's only fair, right? So, I can read each other to you guys. Oh, what? Oh, what? Wait, what? Yeah, exactly. I said, no, I'm not going to, I'm not going to do that.
Yeah.
Just because I see things doesn't mean, I'm like the gossip mill either.
No.
What's your aura? That's a loaded question. And sometimes people also feel like I can see their deepest, darkest secrets. And that's not always the case either. I mean, every now and then it's possible, but it's also, so I was actually just in a place that there was a lot of crazy energy today. So, and I got to go back in there in a little bit, but I can feel the crazy energies, and especially if it's behind me.
Oh, really?
I can pinpoint exactly where in the room it is, and there are certain types of people or certain I'm just going to say it like this. There's certain demons that people have that I can feel very amplified, and it's very disturbing to my energy when I feel it, and I can pinpoint exactly where in the room it is, so that when I turn around, I know exactly who it's coming from. And that was happening. So getting to do this is a nice reprieve. I have to be a support system in a very weird place right
but yet you also have to protect yourself, I'm sure, kind of, because you even though you can feel it, you can distance yourself from it.
Oh yeah, exactly. And that is definitely a thing where I see people, they take on the energies, and nothing comes into my being. Everything that I feel is felt through the aura, where it's like, so it's actually basically a shielded thing. Even when I work on people in like a healing session type work, I can feel through the aura, and I'll feel it like it sends a signal to a part of my body. So if somebody has hip pain and I'm working on them, I can feel exactly where it is in the hip, but I'm not taking that energy on in my hip. It's coming as data through the auric field, and it's coming to me, so I understand where it is. As soon as I acknowledge it, it dissipates. Those people that take it in to their person, that's a mistake. So really, like, start working on keeping it outside of your person, because a lot of people think that because they're an empath, they have to feel it. As soon as you're taking it on, it now becomes yours. So now you have to heal through it and from it before you can actually bring healing to someone else for it. And that doesn't make any sense. and which is why a lot of people absorb other people's energies, and it's like you're not transferring it from them to you.
No, you're just both suffering through it now. Yeah.
Right. So that's something that is the fears that you have to do that, and no way in hell do you have to do that.
No, we don't want to suffer it.
Been doing it a long time, and no,
No.
That's like saying if you're going to channel, something, or you're getting a message from a spirit from beyond, that you're actually, it's exactly like saying, okay, I'm going to be possessed. I have to be possessed in order to give the message. No, you don't. Okay, no, you don't. And you don't want to. You receive a message, you can relay a message. It's like picking up a phone. It's not,
Yeah. But and that kind of brings us back to understanding yourself and going within and knowing who you are, because you don't want to take on other shapes and forms for other people. And that's what we do often, whether it's as empaths or as whatever it is, we often morph into what we think is necessary and lose ourselves a little bit in the process.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, Nicole, you are doing some very exciting things. Your website is magicllc.com. There's a lot of stuff on there. It's gorgeous. There's a email list that you can sign up to with a wonderful drip on limiting beliefs, and a questionnaire that you can fill out. Really nice and fun to do. You also have a membership platform community where you have courses and things like that. There is a link on magicllc.com.
Yes, and a lot of my marketplace can also be found at NicoleMajik.com.
That's right. Yes. And that's a wonderful platform. You're also doing something really exciting tomorrow night on YouTube, on your YouTube channel, Magic LLC Official. Tell me more about it quickly before I let you go.
Yeah. I'm launching a brand new podcast called Magic and Miracles, where I'm showing people stories of other people that really exemplify magic and miracles. So all the things in between, all that stuff, where real life angels to just miraculous near-death experiences or synchronicities or whatever have you. It's really sharing those stories. So it's to be uplifting, to elevate you, to inspire you, and to also say, guess what? You're not alone. And guess what? You.
And that's such a special message, because I think there's a lot of people in the world that have magic within them, but they hide it. I mean, you only found out that seeing auras wasn't a normal thing once you started talking about it, and often people stop there because it's like, oh, okay, and then they suppress, and it's lost.
Yeah.
So that is a very special gift that you're giving to the world, to share that. Thank you so much. You're also joining us at the Wisdom Seeker Society on the 21st of August. It's a Monday, 4 p.m. my time, and that is about 8 or 9 your time.
Okay. Yes.
I can't remember which time zone you're on. I was trying to remember this morning, but you're not on Eastern time. I think you're on...
I'm on Eastern time.
Oh, you are on Eastern time. Okay, so five hours before. So 11 a.m. Eastern time, which is 4 p.m. BST. And I am really, really, really looking forward to sharing you with the fellow wisdom seekers.
I'm looking forward to that too, and answering any questions that they might have too. So
they will.
Yeah. So then,
thank you so much.
thank you for having me. Bye, everyone.